Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today what we're doing is we are replacing the water pump in this 1959 Jaguar XK150 S Roadster 3.4. What happened was first time out for the season, finally warm weather, got the top down, get it started, ready to go to Cars and Coffee, and I hear a grinding noise. It was ended up being the water pump bearing went out. The fan was scraping. The impeller on the water pump was scraping against the block. So this water pump is shot. I have no idea how old it is, but we have the replacement one. I already got the old one out last night, and here is our replacement. And I checked to make sure all the fittings are correct. It matches the original. It matches the fan connection, matches the inlets and outlets, and the impeller size. So it looks like a pretty straightforward replacement. Last night was one of the tougher parts, basically getting all of the old stuff off. I drained down the coolant. I kind of finagled the coolant lines out of the way. I was just trying to avoid having to take the radiator out because it's a little bit of a tight fit. I didn't particularly want to mess with it. And basically it's supposed to kind of slide out, but because there's an aftermarket fan on here, it won't really do that cleanly. And the shroud is also kind of an odd size that'll conflict. So these are simple cars to work on. It's a simple job, just a water pump, but I just take some extra care, make sure to not compromise anything that is compromisable. So hopefully this will be a fairly straightforward job refitting this new water pump, getting new hoses on, new connections, refilling with coolant, and we'll be on our way. So let's get going. Just for a bit of history, Jag won the 24 Hours of Le Mans 5 times in the 50s with the XK120 C-Type and D-Type, which all used this same XK engine that continued on for several decades in their road cars. This particular version is a 3.4 liter S, which means it has the triple SU carbs, and it also has the four-wheel disc brakes, which Jag first came up with for racing and then followed up with in their road car, starting with the XK150. The concept for changing the water pump is really simple on these cars. It is mounted right to the front. Basically, the water pump just sits bolted to the front of the engine, and on the front of this, it has a V-belt connection, and then that connects to the fan, which is direct drive, and it's always on, so there's no fan clutch or anything. It really can't be much simpler than this. The only complexity is the car itself, the tight locations, and just making sure you are doing everything properly and carefully. But last night I removed the fan, removed the pulley, removed the water pump itself, and was scraping off the existing gasket. We have a new gasket here for the pump itself, and then we have a new gasket for a tiny little connection on the side of the pump. So it is fairly simple. I think we should be able to get back in today. Okay, I don't know if you caught that critical mistake, but I just said I can probably get this job done tonight, which is a cue for karma to say, no, you cannot. So just use caution in saying things like, I can get it done tonight. Oh, honey, it's only going to take me a couple minutes. Oh, it's no big deal, just a few more bolts. No, it's not. Something will set you back. And just to give you a little bit of an idea of what we're doing here. So you can see kind of where the belt runs along these pulleys. It goes from the generator to the crankshaft, and it goes up to the water pump, which is right here. Here is the water pump taken off. We have the new gasket on after I took a razor blade and cleaned off the existing gasket that kind of fell apart when I took the water pump off. These are just basic paper gaskets. I'm not using any sealant on them. It should be fine with just the paper gasket and pressure. A few of these have studs coming out with nuts that hold it on, and the rest of them are bolts that go into the block. All of these we need to be really careful with, because any stripped bolts or nuts or studs sets us back and requires us drilling and tapping on this block, which I do not want to do. So we've got that on. What I might do now is put the fan in. We can basically tuck it up in the shroud here against the radiator, and then put the water pump in. That way we don't have to kind of finagle the fan in around the water pump. So I think I'll go ahead and do that now. One thing I did notice, it was actually on my to-do list this winter that I didn't get to, but this radiator definitely has a minor leak. I'm thinking the leak might be at least coming out through the back. So I'm not sure if any of the circuits in the radiator are really kind of gushing, or if it's more seeping. I think it's just seeping. My idea is to basically take the radiator for this and for the Land Cruiser that I have, the FJ40, out next winter, take them to a radiator shop to get rebuilt. Because you can just see, some of the seepage. It's been happening. That green tinge is coolant that's been leaking out of it. So, oh no, a butterfly got sucked in. It's a butterfly killer. So let's keep going. All right, so like I mentioned, we were gonna just tuck our fan in to the radiator shroud before we put the water pump in, just because of the spatial constraints. So you'll see me doing that right now. I thought I'd just do a voiceover to save the sounds of putting the radiator in and the metal squeaking it against each other. So we basically just put that down there so that when we get the water pump on, it's not super tight trying to get the fan back in there. Maybe even impossible. It's pretty tight, honestly, once this whole assembly is in. All right, so make sure we have the right orientation. It basically goes onto the front of the engine just like this. So let's drop it in there. It is a tight fit. At first I really thought I was gonna have to take the radiator off and the shroud along with the fan just to get to the water pump, but it ends up being able to just barely squeeze in, which saves a good amount of time. Check it out. So there we are. New part is in. We are going to carefully bolt it down, and then we will go about attaching our fan and our pulley, and then we'll get the hoses back clamped together, and that will pretty much be it. All right, so after a couple of minor setbacks, we ended up getting our new water pump in there. We got our fan back on, our pulley back on, our fan belt back on. Everything is tightened up and ready to go. I have also filled it up with coolant and diluted it, and we have run it for a few minutes. I don't see any weeping really. I tried to clean it up a little bit in there before I put everything back together, but the radiator is going to be off within a year anyways to get it rebuilt for some seeping issues, so I was not too concerned about it. I can clean it up later. I did get a couple new hoses installed that I just happened to have on hand. The old ones were not terrible, but I thought while I'm in there, I might as well do it. The only really big thing that sent me back on time were these two bolts right here on this flange. The original water pump, or not necessarily original, but the one that was on there, had English bolts, and these bolts for this new water pump, remanufactured, is metric. So I had to source the bolts. I did not have any on hand, so that took a day or so. But everything is back together. Everything is looking good. I was able to, just work on it over a few nights, and now it's back up and running, ready for the warm weather. So we'll see it at some Cars and Coffee. I am definitely excited to get it back out for the season. All right, we'll see you all later. Have a nice night. Overall, yeah, this was not too bad of a job. I mean, my hands got dirty and bloody, but when do they not when working on cars? And I mean, I got to sit there and enjoy watching some Top Gear and just getting dirty and being productive for a couple nights. Thanks for watching. See you later.